For this discovery project, I chose to create a landscape in the ink style from the Chinese period of Qin. And so looking at some of their paintings and some of their designs, I wanted to find out more about them and study them and then create a Utah landscape in kind of that same style. Landscape painting developed in the 5 Dynasty period. Some of the first paintings were done on hand scrolls, and that made them a little harder to view because you could only open them up and see part of the painting at a time. Later on, as landscapes became more prominent and more popular over the years, artists started to paint them on what we call hanging scrolls, and these were on big banners of silk that could then be hung up and displayed for multiple people to look at and discuss at the same time. As landscape painting became more prominent, it started to grow as a subject matter itself. So rather than just being a background for a scene or a background to tell a story with, the landscape itself started to become the subject matter. Many of the first landscape painters would immerse themselves in nature and then respond to what they saw and what they felt through their artwork. One of those first artists at the time was Hong Wang, and many of his paintings became very famous for his intricate brushstrokes and the detail that he would add to create his landscapes. As time went on, instead of having artists immerse themselves in nature itself, many artists actually started to study landscape paintings from the past. And one artist was Wang Shimin, and he actually would study the work of Hong Wang and then try to emulate the same techniques within his own work. And so Wang Shimin was kind of known for studying the same shapes, the same small brush strokes, the same washes with ink, and then using that negative space within their paintings as well to create the landscapes. And so a lot of them would then try to emulate what they saw in older landscape paintings and then create it themselves. So for my project, I started with watching the videos that were provided for us by our teacher and looking at how they used the brush and the ink to create their images. And then I decided to use landforms that you would see in southern Utah and put them together to create my own landscape painting. So I am using India ink, and then I am using a round tip brush, and then instead of silk, I am painting on an ARTH paper that is about a 90-pound paper. And as you can see, I've been working on adding in those details and on those fine brush strokes, and using all those lines in different directions to create the different landforms of Utah. I am then using water as well to create kind of that watered down wash is what they would call it, to add in those different values throughout the painting. One thing that the Chinese artists would do is use negative space to their advantages, and that's what I'm kind of working on there up in the sky, is where you paint around areas and leave certain areas white to create like the mist and the clouds and things that would rise on their mountains. And so I tried to emulate that just a little bit there up in the sky, and then kind of fine-tuning some of those details as I worked my way through the landscape. If I was to do this again, I would definitely tape down the edges of the paper. As you can see, it kind of started to curl as it would get wet with the ink and the watercolor washes. So taping down the edges would help that. I definitely enjoyed doing this project, and I think I learned a lot about how ink works on a paper and with a brush, but overall it was fun to create.